He was about 12 months old and had reached the normal milestones up until that point. Then I noticed that he'd started regressing a little bit with his speech. The words that he had, he wasn't using anymore. He wouldn't respond when we called him, so we'd walk into a room and say something to him and he would just carry on as though we weren't there. We've done many, many hours of speech therapy with getting his language up to where it should be for his age. And he has improved so much. I mean, he's done many tests recently and you can't tell that there's a problem. He's at where he should be for a 6-year-old. We read a lot with him. We have lots of conversations where we get him to repeat back to us what we've said so that we know that he's not only got the words, but he's understanding the correct context that they should be used in. I think we're just on him all the time, like not overbearingly so, but we're just on him all the time so that he doesn't have a chance to regress, because I think he could very easily go back to playing on his own and getting used to his own company, and maybe then we'd have issues.
When she was born, she was black from the elbows to the fingertips and from the knees to the toes, and completely sort of flaccid and lifeless. We were taken up to PMH, where she was examined, and they told us they thought she had Prader-Willi syndrome, but then it was another 5 days before we got it confirmed by blood test. All the parents I speak to, it's one of their biggest issues is kids not being able to form friends, and it's very sad for everybody. However, then around about, I think it was year 7, we discovered Therapy Focus's Community Connect program, and that has been brilliant because it's in a normal environment. It's not sort of a stage with a therapist, and they go out in a group. They go out to the movies, they do travel training. So they're still doing therapies like travel training, learning to handle money, but in a group. And it was the same group every holiday. So these kids formed a real friendship.
She was 4 years old, still not talking much, but I didn't think much of it at the time because she seemed healthy. One day she got a very bad cold, and it seemed to linger and linger, so I thought, I'll just take her to the doctor. And the doctor observed her and said to me, Shanella, she's still not talking much. And I said, well, no, but, she's fine. And the doctor said, I think just to be on the safe side, we'll get her assessed by a ped. And it was actually really good to get the diagnosis, because I got her diagnosis at a time where she could get early intervention, which was awesome. Michael, he got diagnosed the year before he went to kindy. And I did not think there was anything wrong with him. See, Aletha got diagnosed because she wasn't talking, but Mr. Michael, he talked from the beginning. Every sport I've put him into, he seems to excel and do really well. When I saw the football getting a bit rough and what can happen to other boys, I thought, no, because my Michael, he's always accident prone. If there's a way of tripping over or hurting himself, he's going to do it. So I thought about it, and I thought tennis is a good one, because tennis is by yourself, you're whacking the ball, so this is good. So I got him involved in tennis, and he's actually ranked number 1 for Thornley for under 14s in his age, and he's very competitive, and he's always checking his CTI score. I still don't know what that is, on the Tennis West website. It's a great experience, and through that he's made really good friends of other boys that play tennis. Yeah, it's a lovely social sport for the kids to do.
When she was first born, her foot was bent up, so I suspected something was wrong then. But when she was little and I was changing her nappy on the change table, one leg just kept on flopping and the other leg was pretty tight, and I could push against my hand quite easily. So at her 6-month injection, I took her to the GP, and they sort of said, it's all okay, the leg will be okay. But deep down I felt that the leg wasn't okay, and went off on my own little tangent and saw a physio, and she unofficially diagnosed cerebral palsy, and actually also discovered in her arm as well, which I didn't know. So every 6 months she had a Botox injection in her right leg, and so pretty much within a couple of weeks of having her first injection at 14 months, she started walking and taking steps. We then got her involved into a lot of sport, obviously starting off with the baby swim and hydrotherapy, just getting the whole body moving. She did things like gymbaroo and trampolining, roller skating, so just keeping her really active. And then at 4 years of age she started horse riding, and which she's still doing now at nearly 13. And she also does vaulting, which is gymnastics on horseback.
I was called attention seeking. At 6 years old, I was called a drug seeker. There was a whole lot of things that people thought because I wasn't diagnosed, so it was hard not knowing what was wrong. I always had bruises all over me, so Mum was investigated for child abuse. I was in a stroller until I was 7, so people thought that Mum was being a little bit stupid letting me be in a stroller until then, but if I'd walk, I'd be in pain for days. I do a lot of talks about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome to different organisations and schools. In the beginning, they aren't too interested to hear about an illness that they don't have or know nothing about, but by the end of it, they're usually interested and ask questions and that sort of thing.
Drinking went fine, everything went fine, but he was sort of in his own world. Sort of, he was lying in the cot, never asked for anything, and that went on like for a month. And we thought, okay, he's a quiet baby, yeah. Of course we compared him with the oldest one, and it was totally different. And when he was, I think, 5 months, we noticed that he couldn't like roll over, but still we thought, oh, he's so young, and that will come. And he was growing, that was the important thing. Okay, he can't walk yet, but he will. He will definitely do that because he's asking for it all the time. He's chatting. In both languages, and English and Dutch. He's making friends. He loves to go to school. So all the normal things at this age, he's delayed, but he's developing, and that's the most important thing for us.
And he started to turn his arms out to the side, so we were querying whether he had cerebral palsy, and took him to our family GP to be reviewed. And he agreed that we needed to get him checked by a paediatrician. And unfortunately, we couldn't get him with a private one for 6 months. So even that was with the GP ringing up to make the appointment. So we went into ED with a referral at PMH, and just went from there and saw a whole pile of doctors that didn't think we'd be seeing so many doctors in one hit. And it just, jumped on the roller coaster ride then and haven't gotten off. We've unfortunately not attended as many classes as we would have liked to. We've had a tough time medically with him last year especially. He was hospitalised for 6 weeks and got very, very sick. But he loves it. Being able to walk, practice walking, even though he's technically immobile, he's able to stand up with help and walk. And he loves it, and he loves the routine of the class and all his little friends, and he knows now what order things happen in. If it doesn't go how it's meant to go, he sort of goes, hang on. But no, he really enjoys it, and it's been amazing. And what they all do here, the staff are fantastic, and the effort they put in for our kids is amazing. It's a fantastic program.
We didn't find out till he was 4 months, and that was just through friends and a family member saying that he wasn't hitting his milestones at 4 months. So we decided to take him into to see the doctor, and that's when he said that he had cerebral palsy. And then we were referred to a paediatrician who said the same thing, and then he referred us to neurology. And it's just been a continuation from then just to find a diagnosis. So we still don't have a specific diagnosis, but he's cerebral palsy, quadriplegia, dystonia. He loves the interaction with the kids. He loves all the different activities that he does here. In the beginning it was quite difficult because I think it was too sensory for him, like it was too noisy, and he was so young, so we did have to pull him out of CE when he was 9 months, and then we've just brought him back a couple of months ago, and he's just loving it. And we've been coming for 2 months, so it's routine, and he knows what's coming, and he loves coming here to spend time with the kids.
Amali has a rare diagnosis, and her brain is actually smooth, so there's not a lot of people in the world that have her condition. So for us it was important to be able to connect with other families and try and work out what was in store for our daughter. Really our first protocol was through the internet, reaching out to other families, and once we met them that opened up the door for advice and I guess direction as to where we might need to go. But yeah, we're kind of at a point now as to wondering, what's going to happen, when are things going to improve, or are we just going to settle that this might be the normal and this is going to be the case for us, which we don't want to settle, we don't want to give up, we want to keep trying. So yeah, we just got to try and find that happy medium. She has a few favourite toys and they'll make her laugh and giggle, and it's great that we can see that side of her as well, because a lot of the meds do dull that down. But right now we're at a comfortable level with her meds that her personality is coming through.
What they were concerned about was that the sort of cleft lip she had was quite rare. It was midline, so that meant it was central to the brain. They didn't really know if she had much of a nose, and that was a big worry for them as well. But I felt reassured because these doctors were really concerned about my baby, and they seemed to be trying to do everything they could for her before she even came. Mia was born on the 8th of November at King Eddie's cesarean section. We were then discharged into early intervention with Disability Services Commission, where we have the OT, the speech therapist, and the physiotherapist. And I found that this was a fantastic team to work with. My physiotherapist was, Mia is in the wrong stroller, she's not well supported. I had been told this before, but I wasn't told what the solution was. So I was on to my 3rd stroller by then, and when I was told it was the wrong one, I was thinking, goodness me, I've already bought 3. They just took over. They sourced what she thought would be good. We did fittings. They adjusted things the way they wanted. And they ordered something that was really specific for her, and it really has been fantastic.
At about 10 weeks, we noticed that he wasn't necessarily tracking or looking at objects like he should be for that age, and we further investigated that. So I was told that, I'm sure everything's okay, but let's just check to be sure. And yeah, one thing led to another, and we had an ultrasound on the brain which showed things were not quite normal, and then we were admitted to PMH for an MRI and an EEG. So yeah, at 3 months, Owen was diagnosed with a rare brain malformation called lissencephaly, and I guess now we're just doing everything we can to maximise his potential and get the best out of life. So I did bring him to Carson Street at around 9 months, and we just participated in the parent-child classes in as much activity as we could before Owen got tired or restless. And now he's obviously tolerating the class in its full extent, being 17 months old now, and we come once a week, every Wednesday. Owen loves movement. He's very stimulated by movement. He's not the type of child that would just lay still on a mat. He gets quite frustrated if he's, in a position where he can't get moving. He also doesn't like to be horizontal. He likes to be vertical, so either in a standing frame or being assisted standing, somewhere where he's upright, he enjoys a lot more than just laying down.
Our homeschool teacher actually got pregnant, so after a couple of years I had to make another decision on what I was going to do with education, and being autistic, you've got to make sure that they're not isolated. At that stage my youngest was actually the problem. He wasn't coping, he was having lots of seizures, and again I was faced with the choice of high schools for Andrew and my youngest not coping. So I decided to go back to homeschooling. I'm very good friends with the children's ex-school principal, and he had a chat with me and said, the kids really need to look at going outside a bit more and getting more independence from me specifically. So they now go to his property twice a week. He's got lots of animals, miniature horses, they might groom, he's got cows and sheep and ducks. They have a great time with that. So at the moment I've got 2 by distance education, which is effectively homeschooling, but a school does do the curriculum for me. And my middle one, who's higher functioning, is in a normal high school and coping really well.
Our thoughts on disability have evolved quite a lot, whereas before I was, really quite happy with a special ed class and early intervention and things like that. As I've gone on, it's become more important to me that our family is actually just part of the community. And for me, that means that my son is part of a mainstream environment because then he's learning all the skills he needs to develop to be part of a community. And some of the research that's been coming out now really goes to highlight the benefits of mainstream for children like my son. I think it's more important to us that our son is just considered a kid, first and foremost, that our family is not defined by disability. And the important thing for me is to find out whether the school has a culture of not tolerance, but of acceptance, of valuing every child for their individual strength, and make sure that the teacher who ends up with Andrew is really happy to have Andrew in the class.
Between pre-primary and year one and year two, we did change his education arrangements, and at the moment he's in a special education school for 3 days a week and the local mainstream school for 2 days a week. And we had to negotiate that quite hard. A lot of the kids that are around Lachlan also participate in his communication style. Because he doesn't talk, he uses a Nova Chat to talk. A lot of those kids have actually learned how to use his Nova Chat to talk with him rather than it just being a single-sided conversation. And that's been a huge learning curve and a huge benefit to him. And we have been really surprised that we have had so much support from particularly the parents, but more importantly the kids. The kids in the schools at a young age, they don't know the discrimination that's taught potentially as an older person, and they just accept kids as they are. You try and engage a conversation with a child about Lachlan, and they just see Lachlan as another student. And that's just been so wonderful, the actual support that the kids have. The kids have actually made the journey, not anyone else, not the educators, not teachers, not anyone else. The kids and the people that surround Lachlan are actually the ones that have made it a huge benefit, because they just accept Lachlan for who he is, and that's just been the most wonderful part of the journey.
And look, remember earlier on I said that I was worried about Ella having friends when she was at school? I really needn't have worried, because in the first year in kindy, Ella went to 13 birthday parties. So look, people were fabulous. Ella has the most beautiful best friend. Her name is Trinity, and they are just the cutest little girls you have ever seen, the way they are together. They have sleepovers. I don't know why I wanted them to have a sleepover, because yes, they did stay up very late, but they do all the things that little girls do. They go to the park, they like to dance together, they like to play, I don't know what these games are called, but these sort of little games, they like doing those. And look, Ella doesn't always do them correctly, and she definitely does them in her own way. A nice example of this is in our school community, we have a whole group of parents and we go trick-or-treating on Halloween around our local suburb, and it's getting to be bigger than Ben Hur now. But Ella's there, dressed up with everybody else, walking through the community, and a lot of the houses have steps leading up to their front door, and so quite often Ella's friends will run up and say, sorry, you need to bring the lollies down the steps because Ella can't get up the steps because she's got crutches or she's got a walking frame. It's no big deal. And the interesting thing is the parents are so proud of their children for noticing, and the parents are the ones that are amazed. How did my child even think to do that? Isn't my child generous and kind?
We're in a space now where our child's included in the classroom, and she's been included from the point of view of a curriculum too. We've teamed up with a group who specialises in inclusive education and have been doing a fair bit of work with Sophia at home before school on explicit teaching of reading and mathematics. Her reading's at about an age-appropriate level, which is wonderful, and it's come on basically in the last. That's basically we've been doing that for a year and a half now.
And she was below.
She was below her
grade level.
when we started, and mathematics we're around about half a year behind grade level. She has play dates. She goes to parties. She jumps. She runs. She skips. She laughs.
She has friends who call out goodbye to her across the playground. They are so lucky that we had Sophia and that we had her first. It's made us into parents we would never have been. It's taught us things about parenting, things about teaching, things about ourselves that we would never have known. And I never ever thought that we would be where we are now.
Yeah. She's made us better parents, better people. You know, she contributes hugely to our family. Our family just wouldn't be the same without her.